Welcome to our latest episode of Eye of the Swarm, your deep dive into anything and everything related to Yellowjacket athletics. With the big sound Matt Johnson, I am Jon Garver, season number 6, episode number 7. And how was Thanksgiving?
Good. I got a chance to see my whole family for the first time in a while. Hadn't been a while since I had last seen them. But it went up the North Shore, up near the Tofty-Lutsen area. My dad rented a house, and so we had turkey and the whole shindig. The whole fam was there, and
Nice.
It was good. Yours?
It was chaos.
Did you cook this year?
I did.
Because you cook every year.
I cook every year.
Yeah,
I cook every year.
How did you prepare the bird this year?
Oven roasted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know you switch it up.
I thought about, putting it on the grill and having a smoked turkey and everything, but we had literally the entire family in our tiny little house.
And that's, again, yearly.
Yeah. But this we've never had everybody.
Oh.
We had everybody this year.
Oh,
so my side, my wife's side, we had everybody. We had 2 5-year-olds and a 3-year-old.
Oh.
I mean, it was chaos, and I just didn't think that was the appropriate year to let's experiment with something. Let's try something new with the birds. So I didn't think that was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So it was just a standard oven roasted bird, but it was a loud house.
Yeah, I can imagine, right? Yeah.
It was a loud house, and at the end of the day, it was just like,
it's tiring.
Yeah.
It's tiring.
And we followed that with Bentleyville.
Oh, yes. Well, for the kids, you have to do that.
Yeah, so we did the Bentleyville thing and spent a good half hour in line to see Santa, and
Okay.
Teddy froze, not literally, but got up front. It was like Christmas Story.
Oh, right.
And he got to Santa and didn't know what he wanted to ask for.
Yeah. Then you get pushed down the slide. And
There was no
everything.
slide or anything,
Okay.
we were just like, come up with something, and he basically told Santa to surprise me.
I want stuff. Give me some stuff, will you?
So
yeah.
So we have to still write the letter to the North Pole and everything, because he's had some ideas on the ride home.
Okay.
And has had some ideas in the week since then. So
Yeah.
we have to come up with that, but it's always funny because he'll kind of be like, well,
Right.
what are you gonna ask Santa for, Dad?
My mom kind of asked me that question yesterday, and I was like,
I really don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been such a kind of a breakneck pace here that it just is. I really haven't had a chance to kind of take it all in,
Right.
and decide anything. So she asked me that question. It completely confounded me. I was sitting there last night on the couch, and I was like, that's a really good question, because I really don't have an answer.
Well, and we were kind of talking about it a little bit yesterday, actually, among a group of us, that we had, it's now Thursday.
Yeah.
We haven't had a home game yet this week.
Yeah.
And that's the first time in 2 months
Yeah.
that we
And
haven't. This is the slowest week we've had, and it's finally an
That's a good
opportunity for
segue, too.
everybody
Yeah.
to take a breath.
That's a good segue, too, because there aren't a lot of home games in December.
No, they're not.
Neither basketball
and they're
team
all
is, I think,
hockey, because
home.
basketball's gone for over a month yet.
Yeah, both teams, I think, are on the road now for a long time.
Till January 8th.
Yeah, so it's going to be a long time before we see them in person again.
Right.
Hockey is lightened up just a little bit, I think, going into Thanksgiving, obviously, and then, the showdown. But the women have taken a bit of a break.
Well,
now,
they needed one because
Yeah.
they played 11 games or 10 games, 10 or 11 games.
They're 4 5 and 1. I think,
in
so
November.
it'll be 10.
In November alone.
Yeah.
You played nearly half your schedule in 30 days.
Yeah. So there wasn't.
Breakneck pace was the exact word.
Yeah, breakneck pace
that
is
described
what
it
it's
really
been.
well, or living fast forward.
Well, and that, of course, and then all the stuff with the men's soccer going to the Sweet 16 happened, and then all that other, all the jazz that goes along with that. So there was a lot happening in a short space of time, and then it just kind of lightened up a lot.
It was funny to me because it was light in September.
Yeah.
Stadium opened, and then everything just started happening.
Yeah, everything just opened right up.
Yep.
Yeah, it just sort of happened that way. Last week, just about everybody was away, or except for men's hockey.
Except for men's hockey in their tournament.
Yeah, the host of the showdown, which they do every year around Thanksgiving, and one.
Well, this is the first year on Thanksgiving.
Oh, the first year.
It was usually New Year's.
Oh, that's right.
It's usually that week between Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah, so they played it earlier
But
this year.
they moved it to Thanksgiving, which I was very grateful for.
Yeah.
Thankful, if you will.
Oh,
See what I did there.
Yeah. That's among the things John was thankful for: family, good food, and the showdown being on.
Well,
the weekend.
yeah, because typically if they do it on that week in December, it falls the same time as women's basketball would typically host theirs.
Yeah.
And trying to operate 2 tournaments during that time with the overlap in games
Yeah.
and not being able to get student workers
Yeah.
at that time because they're not here
Yeah.
is really difficult. So,
Makes complete sense then.
I'm grateful that we moved it to Thanksgiving and it's a little easier to navigate that.
Right. Yeah. The team's performance was,
So.
yeah,
know.
we talked about this before when on camera, but
Yeah, and I'm not shy about it. You hear me ask Coach McKenna in every pregame interview we do. There's inconsistency here. The team hasn't put 60 minutes together. It seems like there's a 15 to 20 minute stretch in every game where they just don't play.
yeah.
They take some time off. And you can kind of go back through the schedule. We did this before we got on air, but you can go back through the schedule and just kind of go, okay, this game it was in the third period. This game was the second period. This game was the second period. This game was the third period. And it's hard to win when you don't string 60 minutes together.
Yeah.
And it's hard to build momentum when you can't string wins together.
Yeah.
And if you're not playing 60 minutes, it's hard to get those wins. So it's
Yeah.
they're in a bit of a, an up and down right now.
There's been, I think, for the most part, there's been a lot of mixed results for the winter teams overall.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I think all 4 teams.
They're right around that 500 mark.
Yeah, everybody is right around 500. Have had some really good performances and some not so good performances.
Yep.
Because we were talking about this with men's basketball too. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
There's been some inconsistencies there, and I know it's something that Greg is working on. The guys are working on. But and this sounds somewhat trite when it comes to the men's team. But if they're making their shots, they can play with just about anybody. If they're not making their shots, they're going to struggle.
Yeah.
And that's been the story now for, about a year and a half, where they just, there are times when they're making their shots, they're really tough. They can play and beat with just about anybody. We saw last year when they were beating lacrosse, and they were, beating River Falls, and they were hanging in there and going down and beating.
That was such a great start to the year.
Yeah. And then the shots stopped falling, and then they started losing games.
Yeah.
And been that way this year too. Blow out St. Olaf by 20 and then, score 49 against Ripon last time out, because you can't make shots. You take a horse collar from 3-point arc. You go for 18 from beyond the arc. In this day and age, that's a killer.
Yeah.
That's a killer. And you shoot 35% overall, that's a killer.
Yeah.
Overall shooting percentages are not terrible except for the 3-point one. The 3-point, they're shooting 26%. You got to do better.
Yeah.
45% from the floors is what they're shooting as a team is not bad. That's actually pretty good. Most teams would take that. But you got to shoot better, and 69% from the line isn't great.
Yeah.
So there are a couple areas they need to get better in. But yeah, that's the way it's been. The women, kind of the same thing. The women actually are playing pretty good offensively. That game last night with Stout was interesting because they got behind. They came out and they were hit right in the mouth by that half court trap that Stout plays, which is really aggressive. They've got long, quick athletes on it. And they really, they hit you as soon as you come across the timeline. And we didn't adjust to it very well in the first quarter. We had 9 turnovers, shot 2 out of 11, got behind by 21 at that point. And I'm like, oh, okay, here we go.
It's tough to dig out of that hole.
Yeah.
No matter how well you play.
Right. And then they played 3 really good quarters and came within 7 at the end. Before finally Stout pulled away a little bit again in the last couple minutes. But bottom line was too many turnovers. They ended up with like 23, 24 turnovers, which actually wasn't bad considering the pace they were on after 9 in the first quarter. But still, you got to take care of the ball better.
Yeah.
With that being said, Elise Bessenden had a huge game.
Yeah.
29 points, and the team shot well. They were close to 50, and like 80 or 90%. And that's going to win you a lot of games. If they had not had those turnovers, they'd been right there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the women are going to be okay. They've had a couple of really close losses. The game against McAllister by 2, the game against St. Kate's by 3. Laid 1 egg against Hamlin, and they'll admit that. But overall, I think they're really right on course for what they need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and you go up the street at the arena. On the men's side, he's lost 3 games. He's 4-3-1. He's got 3 1-goal losses.
Yeah.
They've defensively they're solid. Their goaltending has been very good. They've given up 18 goals or 17 goals in 8 games.
Yep.
So you're just over, and 9 of those came in two losses.
Yeah.
So defensively, they're fine. It's finding a way to
Yeah.
get more pucks on net and score some goals down there. The women have been very entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
Because they've opened it up. She's come in and just we're going to attack. We're going to play. We're going to create. We're going to go after it.
Right.
And they do. And they do.
Absolutely.
You know, so they
even the game that I did against Point. I mean, they were hard done in that game.
Yeah,
they really were.
And the tricky part with that is, okay, you're going to open it up a little bit. You're going to have some D jumping in the rush a little bit, and that's fine. But no, you're going to have some opportunities going the other way. Yeah. And I think you talk to Bree in a pregame, and you're going to say, you're scoring goals.
Yeah,
but you're giving them up too.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, that's the bugaboo right there. Is we're giving up too many opportunities the other way. We're giving up too many goals the other way.
Right. Yeah.
But they're an entertaining bunch to watch.
Yeah, I think this is probably the most aggressive and most free I've seen them look.
Long time.
Yeah, in a while.
Long time.
And they're having fun playing.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell they're having fun playing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that game against Point that I did, they outshoot them 29-9 over the last two periods, 17-1 in the third. There's not much more they could have done.
Right.
You end up outshooting them by, almost doubling up in shots for the game, and you lose it 2-1. Well, that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, you played a really strong game. You just didn't get the win.
Yeah.
And that happens in sports like hockey and in soccer.
Mm-hmm.
You can play a really good game and still lose. And
you want to talk soccer? We haven't been on since it happened.
Yeah.
So, it's probably worth mention here.
Yeah, absolutely. My feeling on that was what a run that was at a certain level. I mean, they were, I think they had expectations going in, and we had expectations for them, but I wasn't quite sure. I mean, you go to the NCAA tournament, you're playing against good teams, and so it's a play here or play there. They made the right plays at the right time.
Yeah.
And congratulations to them, by the way.
Absolutely.
What a run they had.
Oh, great run.
Yeah.
Great
really
run.
Good run.
I think this is I think people always knew they were there.
Right. Yeah.
Now this was a respectability run.
Yeah.
And I think on the national level now, the regional level, the national level now, it's not, they're the one and done.
Yeah.
There's some respectability there.
Yeah,
and
I would definitely agree with that.
You can really see the results of that meat grinder of a schedule that they play in the first half.
Yeah.
It paid dividends in the end.
I was thinking about this on the way over, actually, before we start recording, that this was a team that could play with anybody. Mm-hmm. They could go toe-to-toe with anybody. And they showed it.
Yeah.
They proved it. Even in the Sweet 16 loss to Amherst, you're 1 minute away from going to PKs.
Yeah.
Against a team that's a national runner-up from the year before.
And if you're not down a man at that point, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Who knows what happens?
Because you could push a little more then.
Yeah, they went toe-to-toe with really good teams and showed they belong. Mm-hmm. And they are definitely one of the top 20 teams in the country this year. There's no question about that in my mind. And like I said, they can play with anybody.
Yeah.
So, it's been a long time since we've been able to say that necessarily. The goal's always been just get the NCAAs and see how things play out. But they were good. Even the numbers bear it out. Mm-hmm. They were right there.
Yeah.
And that's what St. Olaf. They were right there with North Park. And then going down a man against Amherst, that ends up tilting the field a bit.
Yeah, it definitely tilted the field.
Yeah. So it's just. I'm really happy for them. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, he brings back a lot of good players still. He loses a lot. But he's also bringing back a lot.
The cupboard's not bare.
Nope. Not with Freddie Watson, not with Jake Kidd, not with, Isaac Beck and some of the guys, Elfie Hudd and some of the other guys that have played a lot of minutes and started. So the level is going to be interesting next year. We'll see what they do in the back line. The back line is where I'm most concerned because they got to replace their goalkeeper and they also got to replace their back four.
Yep.
Or back three in this case. Because they changed formations this year, but they're going to score a lot of goals. Mm-hmm. They're going to score plenty of goals again next year. The question is going to be whether they can keep the balls out. If they can do that,
there's no reason why they can't make that run again.
Yeah, exactly. If they can find the right combination back there. They've got some guys that log some minutes. They're going to have to log more minutes now next year.
Right.
And some of those big wins that they had earlier on. But yeah, I'm interested to see. Good for them though. Mm-hmm. They're going to be preseason favorites, I'm sure, in the UMAC again.
No doubt.
Yeah, but the standard now has been set, sort of. You know what I mean?
I think it has.
Yeah.
I think now there can be an expectation that we expect to advance past that first
round,
and that second round.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're at all out of line by saying no. We expect to be in
we expect the minimum level
in that
quality
16.
Of play. And with the women, it's going to be similar. The women had a really good performance, by the way, as well. Mm-hmm. They got overshadowed a little bit because they lost some PKs to the MIAC champs.
Right.
But
it was a good match.
It was a really good match.
It was a really good match.
They had a couple chances in overtime where I thought they were going to win it. My Holmquist missed the goal by about 6 inches on that head ball, which I thought was going to go in. But same thing. The cupboard's not completely bare, but they lose
a ton.
Yeah, they lose a ton. I mean, they've got some really good players that also played a lot of minutes this year that are coming back.
Yep.
But they're going to have to find some scoring. I think they'll be pretty solid defensively. But
I think any team of hers is always going to be very solid defensively.
Yeah, I think they're going to be solid defensively. They'll be good in possession again because they bring back players who know how to play in their system. But yeah, they're going to have to find some primary and secondary scoring.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't lose the amount of scoring that they're going to lose and not feel it.
Yeah.
But with that said, there's some good players coming back too. So, yeah.
That's called sports, though.
Yeah, exactly. And I was so excited because I didn't get a chance to really talk to Joe I texted him, I think, after the St. Olaf game. I think I texted him after the North Park game. But it showed to me because everybody was so bummed out after they lost to Amherst and the way they lost. I said, I'm not bummed out at all because they showed they can go toe-to-toe with anybody. Does it suck that they didn't make it to the Elite Eight and then to the Final Four? Yeah, sure, absolutely. But you know what? To me, they more than proved their point.
Yep.
With how they performed in all 3 NCAA tournament games.
Yeah.
There was, any of those games could have gone either way, and that's the point.
Yep.
You just, you roll the ball. To use a euphemism, you roll the ball out and see what you can do.
Yep.
And the guys did that, and they gave their all. And that goal, by the way, that Bellamy scored against North Park.
Unreal. Absolute rocket.
I saw it on the taking the lap when you talked to Aaron Chart and Folkert about who got the assist on it. That was an absolute blast.
Rocket.
20 yards out, and he
no keeper in the world was stopping
North
it.
Park's keeper just froze. He didn't even move. He just stood there, and it went in the goal. And it was like, and then the 2 saves by Paredes against St. Olaf in the shootout were special too.
Yeah.
Especially I think the first one. The second one, the guy telegraphed a little bit on this PK, but he's a really good goal. He's a really good shot stopper, and that's what he really excels at. And on that, after he made that save on the second PK, I was kind of like, I didn't quite know how to respond because I was actually sitting in the parking lot watching it on my phone. And I figured you were doing the same because where were you at that point? You were at Westman, weren't you? Where were you?
For the St. Olaf game?
Yeah.
I was at my son's hockey practice.
Okay.
That was the Sunday. So I was at my son's hockey practice, eyeball on the phone. Practice wraps up.
Right, yeah.
As they're heading to overtime, the second overtime. Get him out of his gear, get in the truck, get home, bring it back up, and all I saw were people running around on the field. So I knew somebody won.
The celebration was...
I had no idea who it was until I saw Holden Law come running into the picture with his camera. And I'm like, oh, good, we won this thing. Okay. Well, but I had no idea until...
It was kind of crazy because the guys kind of scattered.
I know.
They kind of ran
and that's
everywhere.
what I mean. There was people running everywhere.
Yeah, there were guys kind of running around
from
everywhere.
both teams, and I had no idea who actually won the thing at first glance until I saw Holden come running in with his cameras. I'm like, all right, it was us.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right, yeah. It was kind of a crazy celebration.
Yeah.
So... But yeah, huge congrats. I'm super happy for Joe and his team.
Yeah.
They fully deserve it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, I'm looking forward to next year. I love being their play-by-play voice. I've loved it since I've been doing it. I worked with Joe closely during the summer, as you know, broadcasting from Duluth FC, so I know Joe about as well as anybody.
Yep.
And it was a great run, for them. And that senior class, they deserve a lot of props, that entire class, because they've been grinding for this for 4 years.
Some 5.
Yeah, some of them for 5 years. Yep. And, make the NCAA tournament every year, try to get over that first hump. Last year was a tough one, losing to St. Olaf in the first round and getting thumped. That was a really good St. Olaf team. I mean, yeah, obviously. Clearly it was a really good team. But it's still...
They've got hardware to prove it, so clearly.
Yeah, exactly, clearly. But I think that was one that was hard to stomach for a lot of the guys. And, you take that to heart, and then you go down and you play them again. And it's not the same St. Olaf team as it was. I mean, they lost some really key players from that squad.
But still.
Yeah, exactly.
You're back at the scene of the crime.
Yep.
And, yeah. You don't forget that kind of thing.
No, absolutely. And, in the postseason, games are going to be tight. Most games are going to be tight. You're going to have overtime, double overtime, PKs, and, the guys were ready.
Yeah.
Guys were ready. And like I said, it's a bummer that they lost the way they lost, but, and they'll from the overall perspective, I couldn't be prouder of what they achieved this year.
No, I think that goes across the board.
Yeah,
I think it goes across the board.
So,
at any rate,
where
that was the weeks
sports?
that were.
Yeah, the weeks that were. Indoor track and field, I think, starts up
this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah,
they start up this weekend.
They'll have their first event this weekend, so.
And hopefully men's and women's basketball and men's and women's hockey can iron some things out, before the conference season starts. Because I think they'll be okay once they get in the conference, especially the women. But like I said, it's been a little bit of a mixed bag. So there's some things there that need to be worked out for sure.
So why don't we talk about it?
Yeah, let's talk
in the next segment. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will catch up with. We're talking men's basketball. Greg Polkowski will be here, and I believe a player, but I'm not entirely sure. He didn't tell me. He just said, we'll be there. So
okay.
I know there'll be somebody in one of these two chairs, but
yeah, somebody will be here.
Not sure exactly who it is.
Fair enough.
At any rate, after this break, we'll be back with Coach Polkowski. We'll talk men's basketball right after this. You are watching Eye of the Swarm.
Find your passion. Find your people. Find your purpose. Find your superior.
We're back for the roundtable segment of this edition of Eye of the Swarm, and it's time for us to hit the hard court and talk some basketball. We've got head coach Greg Polkowski and Reid Johnson from the men's basketball team with us. So
thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah,
Appreciate it. Especially you, who got the last minute notice. So way to bail coach out.
Yeah, you put in a workout and then decided and then got summoned
straight from the workout.
Yep.
But so month or so into the season now, and topsy turvy, little up, little down.
Yeah, I think if we're looking for the initial temperature on it, I think. Yeah, I mean the record's the record. I think we started off with 3-1, and I think a lot of positives. We've played some really good teams, and I don't think that. I don't know. I guess I have a different demeanor about it than maybe I've ever had. Where I think internally, it kind of they tear me up probably more than they ever have. But in regards to the team and who we are and what I believe we're capable of, I'm not wavering at all on that, and feel that we're still making positive strides. I mean, I think there's sections of games, whether it be all 40 minutes against St. Olaf, whether it be overtime on McAllister, whether it be the first half of Trinity, even first half of Ripon defensively, where that's what we've grown to expect and see, and we're seeing it. I do think there's an element of consistency, whether that be offensively and scoring the basketball, whether it be rotation-wise and finding consistency there, where we need to get those things figured out, and but I think I don't know, in the past I've always gotten pretty worked up about it, that we've got to figure it out now, and we all do want to figure it out sooner than later, but I think there's a natural evolution that we need to go through to figure that out, and I think that maybe happened at times in the past years, but maybe not to the same way it is right now. So I'm just going day by day with it. As much as it kind of pains me in the moment, that's just where my mind is at, in our mind, and we're just going to try to keep getting better.
He just summed up the entire winter sports season in the first month right there.
Yeah, pretty much.
For every team.
Yeah, everybody's had, we talked about in the open.
Replace scoring the basketball with scoring the puck, and he's talked about all 4 teams right there.
It's and we talked about in the open. There's been some good and some bad. There's been some mixed results for all 4 teams. Mm-hmm. We haven't seen indoor track and field yet, so we don't know about them yet. But, I mean, at this juncture of the year, I would say that everybody's kind of trying to find their footing a little bit, trying to figure out what they're going to be, how they're going to play, what the expectation is in terms of performance level and what they're capable of, because – it's tough. I mean, basketball, it's tough to put together a full 40 minutes at times, and hockey is tough to put together a full 60 minutes at times. I think all 4 teams have played a pretty rigorous non-conference schedule to this point, so it's not that you're playing against a bunch of teams that are going to let you get away with slacking off either. I mean, you drop in energy against teams like Trinity, or you drop in energy against a team like St. Thomas of Texas. They're going to make you pay for it. That's just the way it is. Same thing with the women. I mean, if you drop your energy level against Stout, they're going to take advantage of it. If you drop your energy level against Hamlin or St. Kate's, they're going to take advantage of it. That's just the nature of the beast. The key is to try to minimize that as much as possible, and I think for the guys, open up the season with a tough loss against Marion. Marion's had a pretty good year so far, but then come back and then beat St. Olaf like a drum the next day. That sort of typifies, I think, the ups and downs that can happen at times, especially in a short period like that. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is just you got to keep your head in it. And that's sometimes can be the hardest part when things are not going well, is to keep your head in it. And Greg and I have talked about this. It's trying to find that consistency, and sometimes that can be a challenge. Especially early in the season. So I would say that's probably where all 4 teams are at right now, to be perfectly honest.
Do you agree with some of that, Reid, as from a player standpoint?
Yeah, for sure. Probably the best way to put it is we're just trying to find consistency without even the ball being a part of it. Consistency and effort, defense, all other aspects of the game. Because, I mean, we're working out every day. We're getting our shots. So shots will fall. Just being consistent with body language, emotion, and all that. I mean, this is probably the tightest group of guys we've had since I've been here. I mean, love one another, hang out with one another. So it's easy with that stuff, and then everything else will come. But it's just staying consistent.
Yeah, we can break down X's and O's and who's taking the shots, who's getting the points, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it just comes down to a consistent effort on both ends of the court, and that's something that I know Greg is a big proponent of. If we score 84 points but we give up 82, there's some stuff that needs to be done defensively that we got to do better. If we lose a game 56-55, defense was okay, but we got to do better on offense. I mean, it's that you have to play both ends, and that's the hardest part, I think, for most teams, is trying to get that balance. And I've watched enough college basketball to know that that's a problem for most teams in the country.
Just about every single one.
Just about every single one of them has that question as to well, we're going to be on both ends of the floor. We have to be tight and on it on both ends of the floor, and that's sometimes can take some time to work out. Coach, I don't know, if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I just think, I think it's, I think you are accurate in, it's the game. You see teams at all levels going, peaks and valleys of performance. I think that, I just think that Reid had mentioned this group is really close, has been together for some of them. This is year 5, year 4. There is a great understanding of one another. It is it is the closest group, I think we've ever had. I think that being said, that's a great strength of ours. And then at the same time, there's an element of understanding, a new year is a new year, and a new season's a new season. And I think there's some, maybe rebranding of us a little bit. I think, I think it's very easy for us, really all of us at the table, but even myself and the guys on the team that have been together so long, to reflect on, whether it be 2 years ago, last year, and there being some positive success. And that's good, I guess, to reflect on and learn on. At the same time, it's a new year. So, whether it be, us defensively, maybe looking a little different than we had last year, offensively, really going back, for a number of years, our complexion of our team is a little different, and, what's our strength offensively? How do we want to play that out? And I do think this is probably the deepest team we've ever had. So, for me, for us, that's, can be a tool and a valuable asset. And at the same time, we have to have an awareness of, we got to find a groove and a rotation and a consistency to allow us to kind of, get off the ground at a higher level. So we're 3 weeks into the season. We've played a lot of games, and that's, what we're learning about right now. I think we put a high value on practice, and, we spend a lot of time, even outside of practice in the gym with our guys, small groups, and it's just putting that all together. So I feel very confident for any of the listeners that, hopefully Saturday, we're in a great position. But if it's a week from now, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, that's going to be what it's going to be. But that's what the works looked like, and that's where the focus is of finding that consistency. So, that's your Yellowjacket Basketball 101 update there of where we're at here post-Thanksgiving.
Well, I'll add to this because Greg and I have actually talked about this, and we had actually a pretty long chat about this. Brought back 4 out of 5 stars, but you lose a big starter in that mix with Joseph Fahrenholtz, who now is playing professionally over in Europe. And he was kind of a low post / mid-range kind of guy who was he could face him to the basket about 15 feet out, go inside. But he takes a big dynamic away from the offense, and that's been, I think, a big part of trying to figure out what they're going to do on the offensive end. And Greg and I talked about this, and it's still a work in progress. He talked about that. Before the McAllister game, we talked about it. That that's still a work in progress. We're not quite sure where that's going yet. We're trying to figure it out. But that also is a factor in, and sometimes people I think forget that even if you lose just one player off of a team or one key player off of your team, it changes things. And especially in a sport like basketball where you've got 5 guys, you might be playing 10 guys, but if one of those guys is a real key player, other guys have to step up and have to figure out what the balance is going to be to kind of mix that up. And I just want to get your sense on how that has been. Still, I know a work in progress, but how that's been going so far.
Yeah, I think that Reid can speak to it too because he's living it more than me even. I think that we're to I guess jump into the basketball side of it. We're running same offense, same defense that we have for years, but what the emphasis is within that. And, I don't know how many opponents are watching this for a scouting report, but I'll maybe put a little cap on it that, if, we're finding that, in the past we've really wanted to, get the ball inside, whether it be through, interior play, whether it be through our drive game, our cut game, which we still do. But now I think, some of the shot opportunities that we're getting look different than what it did in the past, and it is a strength for us. You have guys, like Reid, like, Andrew, Javon, whoever it may be, and others that are really doing some really good things that have proven to be a strength of ours, but, that might not be of where we, made hay or made our money necessarily in the past. So, finding that, rebranding, as I said earlier, is that's part of the process we're in. And that doesn't need to be like this big thing or like, it doesn't need to take 3 months to figure out, but, that's what we're learning about ourselves, right now. And, defensively, I thought last year we kind of changed things as well, whereas this year, I think we need to, we are in the process of kind of changing that again. And I think, I don't know, I believe over time we've gotten better as the year's gone on. So I feel that will occur again this year. So.
And Reid, your perspective on how things have changed since last year?
I mean, it's definitely a adjustment losing an all-conference first-team guy, 17 points, 9 rebounds, whatever it was. It's definitely losing a lot. And we were all excited for the opportunity to fill in his shoes whatever way we could coming into the year. But obviously, it's a change. A guy that was playing 30 minutes a game, you lose that. You lose his talk on the defensive end. You lose his leadership, through the highs and lows. But, it's been fun to try and figure stuff out. Like Coach P said, we got the biggest or most depth we've ever had. So, there's a lot of guys that could step in, and there's a lot of guys that can play. So, I think it's all going to work itself out.
Go ahead. I was just going to bring up, having Javon Walker. Obviously there's a lot of upperclassmen on this squad, guys who play a lot of minutes for you, have won a lot of games in their careers here. But Javon is sort of, I don't want to say that he's the straw that stirs the drink, but he's sort of taken over that leadership role a little bit, hasn't he, this year?
No, there's a voice there. He's played a lot of games. He's logged a lot of minutes. There's a great experience level there from him. He is ultra invested in the team and program. But I'll say it right now, you have 7 seniors on the team. I think that you'll see some other big senior classes around the country at any level. I think St. John's in Minnesota has a big senior class, not to pull on other teams, but I don't know of many programs in the country that have 7 seniors and 15 returners. So there really is a collective voice. we have seniors that are starting. We have seniors that are coming off the bench that are all play huge roles. So while a guy like Javon, who, I think leads us in scoring right now, Reid's come off the bench and he's our second leading scorer. And there's different voices, there's different roles that, really by committee. So, that's, I don't want to say that's an adjustment, but, maybe in some ways that is, on some days, it is by committee. On some days, we need Reid to be the lead voice. On some days, Javon is that lead voice. So I would affirm that Javon is, but I'd also really make it clear too that, it's very much by committee as well with having 7 seniors.
Let's flip a little bit to conference play because obviously you've been in non-conference here now for the first few weeks of the season. The UMAC is probably as wide open as it has ever been. We talked a little bit about this in the open. I'm not sure on the men's basketball side it's ever been this wide open and could be this competitive. Would you agree with that?
I'd say it's yes. I'd say it's very wide open. Yeah, it's wide open, and I think early on you've seen I don't want to get the nuts and bolts too much, but, Bethany was beating La Crosse last night for about 39 and a half minutes, who's, La Crosse, I think, is 14 in the country right now, and, Bethany's won it the last 2 years. They're clearly going to be good. Crown, I think, has been off to a really good start at 4-2 or 5-2 right now. Northwestern's had big wins early on. I do believe that we're in the mix there as well. And, North Central's been off to a great start as well. So, yeah, it's wide open. I think we saw some great non-conference success from the league last year. But I think that there's probably even more top-heavy than it's ever been. And I'd even say, and I'm not just going down the list to go down the list, but, Martin Luther's had some huge wins early on and played really competitive and is really – scoring the ball at a high level. So yeah, I think is wide open and as deep as it's ever been possibly too. So
I would agree. I thought the league was particularly deep last year. As deep as I had seen it. And I think it's, if anything, probably it's become even deeper this year. And just looking at the results at the beginning of the year, it's, just about everybody's got 1 or 2 quality wins, at the start of the year and in non-conference play. So, yeah, it's going to be a grind. It'll open up for some really, I think, interesting stuff happening in the second half of the year once we get into conference play in earnest and these teams start to kind of feel each other out. The schedule's going to be a little bit different this year, which is also kind of nice. The back-to-backs are no longer there anymore. Now it's a Wednesday to Saturday again, which also adds another element that'll be interesting because it used to be that, then it went to Friday, Saturday. Now it's back to Wednesday and Saturday. So they'll.
Do you prefer that?
Oh,
Sorry to interrupt.
Do you prefer that? Yeah.
I am kind of looking forward to that. Those back-to-backs get pretty tough sometimes. Now you get a little rest in between, heal up. So I am looking forward to the little break in between.
Yeah.
I'm assuming from a coach prep standpoint, you prefer that as well because you can.
Yeah, I'd always only known Wednesday, Saturday. So when we went to that Friday, Saturday, which you brought up, Matt, that was a change which I'd never experienced in any part of my career, if you will. But I will say that I came to enjoy being all together for that long, especially on the road. I think that was really a positive for us. I think, at home there is that quick turnaround of, just either carrying the momentum or having the opportunity to pick it right back up the next day. I do think it takes a little pressure off the beginning of the week because everything becomes such a rat race of, you got to be ready. Now, the detailed preparation of it that I think we try our best to do a really good job at will lend better on a Wednesday, Saturday. And I do think for the athletes, having a little bit of recovery from one game to the next is for the positive as well. So I know the league, really, I think, wanted to go to Wednesday, Saturday. So I think there's pluses on both sides, and I guess I'm looking at more the I don't know if it's the nostalgic positives. That's probably not the right way to describe it, but togetherness.
It works, though.
Yeah,
It works.
Yeah, the togetherness positive of it. But from a basketball standpoint, it's probably better Wednesday, Saturday. Yeah.
I would tend to agree. I mean, as people know, I also cover UMD. Now, UMD does Friday, Saturday, and they've done that for years, but they have to for their travel because their conference is so spread out.
Yep.
The UMAC is much more condensed in terms of travel. So, in order to do it on a Wednesday, Saturday, I mean, the original idea between Friday, Saturday, and Wednesday, Saturday is the question of travel. That's the big question, and trying to figure that out. I mean, the WIAC has always been Wednesday, Saturday, so we know where we came from before we hit the UMAC. So most leagues, I think, do it that way, especially if they're in a condensed geographical area. The NSIC doesn't do it that way because simply they have teams that are far and wide. So you have a travel partner.
It's a massive conference.
Yes, it's huge. It's a huge conference. I mean, there's 15 schools in it, and you've got teams in I don't know how many different states. There's like 4 or 5 different states that are represented in that league. So you have, it's there's a lot of travel that goes into that, and that's why they do it. It's not necessarily something that the coaches want to have to do, but it is a reality where they're at. But for the UMAC, where, like I said, the travel is somewhat condensed, and you don't have to have a bunch of overnights, if you don't need them. I like the fact that it's back to Wednesday and Saturday as well, simply because I think it feels like a more natural sort of progression for college athletes and for the coaches as well. I don't know if Reid agrees with that. It seems like being able to, okay, we have a game on Wednesday and we have a game on Saturday, and some of them are going to be home and some of them are going to be on the road. But you can figure that you have to if something happens on Wednesday and my legs aren't there, I got a couple days to rest and then I can get back to it maybe on Saturday, and vice versa, Saturday to Wednesday. So, as a former athlete, I would have much preferred a Wednesday, Saturday than a Friday, Saturday. I mean, for hockey, it's really tough because sometimes you're playing 2 different places.
I only knew Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's how hockey's always been kind of structured. But, it's for basketball, it's tough. It's tough, very tough.
We'll make it work. We're going to be fine either way. So
whatever
schedule it is, we'll be ready for it.
Yeah.
You brought up schedule. This is the goofiest schedule I think I've ever seen because you're on the road now for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I think kind of planning out, going back to last year, I think planning out what this 2-year window would look like, knowing we were kind of in that 2-year cycle. Sometimes you get games that, you start a series 1 year, and then you start another one the following year. Really, all of our games were kind of in this 2-year lumps. And so going back even 1 to 2 years of, last year, we felt we had a good group as we do this year. And it was kind of like, all right, let's just roll this home series run. And, last year we did not play on the road at all. We played on the road game 1 at McAllister, and then we played at Superior straight into January, which is unique in itself and I think paid off for us. And I guess part of that decision being knowing that we were going to go to Texas, and I guess, we kind of loaded up at home knowing that was going to happen. Now, to go to Texas, to go to Ripon, to go to Eau Claire, to go to Iowa, all in a stretch is a bit challenging. So that's how it worked out. We will not be going to Ripon next year. We will not be going to Eau Claire next year. We will not be going to Iowa next year. Those will either be returned or over. I think the Texas scheduling piece of it kind of floated a certain way. If it's a grind for us. We can find the guy who did that and talk to him at a different time. But, so it presents its challenges. I will say last year, I think we actually had a better road record than we did home at times, percentage-wise. But, a new year's a new year. Texas is great. Texas was great to be with our guys together. We went down to Ripon. We had a full day down at Ripon. It was almost like an AAU tournament. We had a great opportunity to play a full-blown reserve game. We got a doubleheader with the women on Saturday. So there'll be positives out of it as well. I guess the positives are that this is occurring on Saturdays and not during the week. And then, we haven't been to Iowa, I don't think, any time that I've been here. So that'll be its own experience in of itself. But it is tougher. There's no doubt. This group has always played well on the road historically, so hopefully we're not setting a new trend by any means. But yeah, that's kind of how that came about. But I'm optimistic we can play well here.
How was Texas, aside from basketball?
Well, and the basketball was good too. You know, we prepared hard going into that Trinity game, and I thought that we played really well. We were up at half. I think they're 9 in the country right now. I thought we really controlled that first 28 minutes of the game. I thought they kind of just piled it on a little bit, and we couldn't quite hold on there at the end. We played a really good St. Thomas team, who I think a lot of people will be hearing more of as the year goes on. We learned a lot that game, learned a real lot about us, and they put it on us big right away. We got down really, really, really big, and then we cut it to single digits 3 times, but we dug ourselves too big of a hole. But it was good. We practiced at the University of Houston. Spent time with Javon and his family at his house. Went to the University of Houston game. Went to Kemah Boardwalk, which is down in by Galveston. So it was great, but I'll let Reid speak to that more. I don't want to take away. He got the full experience of it.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, the whole group of guys that have been around 4 years, I mean, we've got to go on some pretty cool trips. But that Texas one was fun. I mean, flying with 20, 25 people was fun. Got down there, we were in 4 different vans. So you all had, like, your own little van group.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Yeah.
I mean, going to John Walker's house, that was pretty fun. Shout out John Walker.
Yeah.
Good pool, hot tub area. That was super fun that whole day. He grilled out for us. Hotel was awesome. Kind of just, I mean, we got a good amount of free time too. And then even the practices, we were practicing in cool places. Like the Houston practice facility was fun. I mean, really, there's no negatives.
Right.
It was fun. I mean, it was warm weather and everything.
As he's saying that, you have taken quite a few trips here over the years.
The Florida trip and then the Las Vegas trip.
The Vegas trips. I mean,
yeah.
you've had a chance to get these guys into some pretty fun events and some cool venues.
I just smirk because we've been fortunate, and I wouldn't say that was all necessarily by plan or design. I mean, I think it's all. I'd say the only one that we really planned from a scheduling standpoint, not that we've gone on a ton, but 3 of them, that Florida one we kind of just did. Obviously, that worked out very well for us, but whether it be alumni connections in Las Vegas and everything that's come about there, that was really good. To our family program connections with Javon, and his family's been to Superior. A lot. Yeah, I won't even try to put a number on it.
His dad's in the stands all the time.
Yeah, I mean they know the Superior area and the ins and outs of it, as well as locals, if you will, and so it was great to go back down there by them, and pay it forward to a sense of what they've done, in their involvement in our program. As Reid mentioned, us going to Javon's house that night, that was a really cool thing. Not only because it was great and the food was great, but just to bring that full circle was really a cool thing. And then there's always unique things that kind of come out of these trips, unplanned, unexpected. Reid mentioned those vans. So yeah, we did fly down. And when we were in Las Vegas, we had a bus. When we went to Florida, we bus. So we had our bus. So this time, we didn't have that luxury. So we had vans, which I know other teams do. But that kind of naturally took its own life upon. We had some really good practices down there, even though you'd question that with we didn't with the result that we had the following days. But we do this drill in practice we call cutthroat. And we usually have 3 teams, and we divide teams up different all the time. It's probably one of our best, cornerstone drills that we do in practice. And when we went down to Texas, we just said, your team is your van. And so that just kind of raised everything up, and whether it be the competitiveness to it, whether it be van names, whether it be, I don't know, you guys had a numbering system that you all had that I won't even try. I wasn't part of that van, so I won't act like I know all about it. But yeah, there was some, just some connectiveness that comes with it. So unplanned. So
I wasn't on the trip.
Yeah,
so
I know you
don't
weren't.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I mean, maybe we could. There's a lot of math and numbers going on. I don't know how that all.
Angry at numbers, Matt?
I'm always angry at numbers. But those are the trips, though, that I think, looking at it from a bigger perspective, can really bring teams together. That's one of those things where, especially, I mean, we talked about this a couple of years ago, and Reid was part of this group. When they went down to Florida, and they beat John Carroll, who was ranked, I don't know, 8th or 9th in the country or whatever it was at that tournament. And then they came back, and you guys went on a run right after that. And we talked about how you guys were playing really well at that time, and there was a lot of reference to that trip to Florida. It's just sort of, bringing everybody together, and there was sort of a belief that was kind of built there. And then
It was a real galvanizing
yeah,
moment.
getting the win against John Carroll was huge. And then after that, the guys kind of took off and won 12 out of 13 or so. It was something crazy like that. It was something like that.
Yeah. There's some takeaways. Like we're early. I mean, it's early. Like we said at the beginning, we're I don't know if agonizing is the right word, but really diving into every little thing. We've struggled against zone defense in the past at times, even though on paper it may look that way. We put a lot of prep into Trinity for that, and I thought our guys performed at a really high level against that type of defense that we historically have struggled against. That was a big takeaway. Against St. Thomas, they did some things to us that, kind of, I guess, reawakened us a bit of like, hey, we can do these things too. And while we walked out of there with 2 losses, I just think what we learned about ourselves in those games, I could go on and on here, but we talked about the depth. We've had some guys. We're only 7 games in, and Landon Tomer plays a real big game a freshman for us down in Texas. Slayton Stroshine comes off the bench and, scores 4 big points for us off the bench. Ty Melchick was 4-7 in game 2 down there. Just little things that, those are takeaways that are going to apply to the rest of the year. And the list is longer. I know I'm missing others, but there's just takeaways from that you have to focus on the positive, and whether it be the team experiences off the court, positive, but there were certain learning factors there at the basketball level that they're already paying dividends for us. So.
Both those teams are really good. I mean, I don't want to harp too much on that trip.
Right.
About the 2 losses, simply because Trinity's a top 10 team, and they were undefeated up until I think last week, and then St. Thomas is still undefeated as far as I know. I mean, they were 6 or 7-0. I mean, these are not. You're not going down there and you're just playing some team that's
right. Yeah, no, they're not.
That just happens to be there, and you're going to play them just because you happen to be there. I mean, these are quality opponents, and those are the games you are going to learn more about your squad. The things that we need to work on, things that we need to do. Giving a different look, to the team. You were talking about that with St. Thomas.
Right.
With Trinity, you had some pre-planning for that one because they're a top 10 program. They've been good for a long time, and there's film on them, so you're really putting a lot into preparation for that game. And then you're playing a St. Thomas team that's a little bit less known, but is also good and is undefeated when you play them. They're 5 or 6-0 when you play them, and it's like, what we're going to get. Well, they had a different look than Trinity did, and that's why you make those trips, because you see those different kind of opponents and see what they're going to bring to the table.
What is the re-addition, I guess, of Joe Kramer to the staff done?
I'll let Reid answer that one too.
Been huge. I mean, he runs all our mini workouts that we have with our mini groups. I mean, he's always watching film on something. I mean, on the plane, he's watching film 24/7. And if he's not, actually, funny story, I sat by him on the plane on the way back, and I look over at his screen. I'm like, what movie is this guy watching? So I nudged him. I was like, Joe, what movie is that? He's like, I don't know. It's just some unrated movie. I wanted to see why I was unrated. I was like, okay, so, what's it about? He's like, honestly, I don't know. It's in a different language. I'm just trying to read body language. I was like, so you just watched a 2-hour movie? Anyway, yeah.
He's a real intellect. Joe's a very interesting guy.
Yeah.
Joe has, I mean, when he played here, he was basically a 4.0 student, pretty close to a 4.0 student when he played here. And he's an interesting guy. I mean, he looks at the world differently than your typical basketball coach, I would say. I don't know if that. Yeah. I don't want to elaborate too much on that. I mean, I've known John as a player and as a coach, but he's an interesting intellect. I'll just say that.
Yeah, no, I think that Reid mentioned. Joe is, and it's kind of. I think it gets forgotten that I think we were maybe talking before we got on air of just in 2019, whether it be the weather, whether it be sports, whatever it was. He played here in 1920, but then he coached, if I'm recalling this correctly, it was 2 years after that. I think 2 years after that, and then was gone. No, 3 years after that. 3 years after that. Yeah, then was gone last year. So he had been with us 3 years, had played here, been here a long time. Reid mentioned the workouts. That's always something that we were able to try to do to some level since I've been here. But it takes people, it takes time, it takes, there's a lot of other things going on. So for, Coach Kramer, Joe to be back here and, was gone for a year, learned a lot about those things and what we want to value. During his year away, brought that back, has really helped us. And I think it's, linking up that work with our philosophies of what we want to do in the court. And I think we saw that early on, and we'll see it again. We'll see it again. That time in the gym is paying off. I mean, I just think for any of us, you have another personality. Joe does have his own unique take on things. He did tell me about that movie actually, and how it was in a different language. He just wanted to process body language or whatnot. So you get a different perspective, and that's going to help us. That doesn't mean, I can assure you, that doesn't mean people are going to always agree with it. Whether it be him with us, player, vice versa, all around the board. But we've cultivated a lot of things that, are maybe still in that building phase right now that you may not see pay off, right away, even already this year. And Joe and the rest of our staff has been part of that. But yes, there's been a re-addition. It's been a positive impact. And I think it's just, he mentioned scout and doing film. There's a work mentality that goes along with him, and it matches our team that we want to work. And I'll kind of pump his tires here a little bit, whether it's film, whether it's getting a food order in, whether it's in the gym with the guys right now, he's not afraid to work. And I think that matches up with how we want to go about our business. So it's been a good re-addition, as you say.
Yeah, I feel like every time I walk down the hall, he's got the laptop open and he's watching something, whether it's breaking down your game or something else. And dude's here at all hours.
He's a worker.
If we're gonna be real in depth about it, when Joe rejoined us, you have my wife on this podcast too. He lived with me for a few months, and that was constant there for a few months. And then we had a really busy, active summer. We share an office, so I feel like since Joe's gotten back, I don't know if there's been 24 hours where I haven't been this close to Joe since he's arrived back, which has been a positive in its own experience in and of itself.
I see Reid kind of smirking about this because it's like he's almost become like a de facto member of the Polkowski family. It's like, I actually have 3 sons. I have Joe, and then I have.
Well, it's a unique situation because I think that. We're getting real in depth with it. Coach Kramer and Joe have had conversations. He was with these guys for so long too, so they know him like this as well. So it's new for some guys, but for some of these guys, it's like, that's their guy from 2020, and so there's its own unique relationships within that as well. So yeah, it's a real melting pot of all sorts of things going on there, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
He was here he's known Joe for years. How nice is it to have him back, though? I mean, were you excited when you heard that he was coming back?
Yeah, it's good, old new face to see again. He's like we've been saying, he's an interesting guy. He's a good guy to talk to, good guy to hang around. Definitely brings a different type of.
I feel like we need to bring him in.
Yeah, I need to bring Joe in here just to answer some of these questions.
He's probably a conspiracy theorist or something. You could probably get him going on something.
Yeah.
He brings a different type of intensity that I don't think other people bring. So it's good to add that into the mix. I mean, he's about as stubborn as the rest of us, so which is a good thing, really, in most cases. But it's been good to have him back.
He's just a good dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I've known Joe a long time, too. And, I knew him as a player. I've known him as a coach. So, obviously, I go back a ways with Joe, too. And he's just a good dude. Really smart. Really intellectual. And he's a guy that like you said, he's never not on that laptop. I think I've walked into Polk's office looking for him, and there's Joe sitting on the couch, and I'm not sure what he's looking at now, but he's looking at something.
Right.
So I don't know if he has an off switch. I think he's pretty much going all the time, isn't he? I mean,
we're all growing, so
yeah.
We love Coach Kramer, and sometimes we gotta help him find an off switch too, and that's a positive too. But no, he does a great job, and Coach Steinerman, Coach Samuels have been with us now. I mean, Coach Steinerman's been with us from day one too. So there's a connectivity there, and we're able to have active practices. I mean, everybody looks at the games as they should. That's a reflection of us. I think our practices are. At times are just awesome because of just all the things we got going on, whether it be the staff, whether it be the depth that we have. So we're playing all the time, and for us the challenge is to carry that on to when the lights come on. So,
Final thoughts?
Looking forward to seeing what the conference season is going to look like. We talked about the depth of the league. Bethany, I think, has taken at least 1.5 step backwards. They lost some big pieces from last year, and they've had a little bit more of a struggle at the start of their season. But yeah, I think it's pretty much wide open. Northwestern looks good. North Central looks good. Crown has looked good, and we've looked good at times as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out, because I think this year is going to be more than any other. I think if you don't bring it on a certain night, you're going to get picked off. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of intensity, because I'm assuming the games are going to be pretty intense in the second half of the year. So I'm looking forward to it, and seeing you guys in January. This is going to be kind of strange to not be able to see you guys in person until January, but this is why you schedule the non-conference the way you do, though, is so that you can get these tests in and get yourself ready for conference play. So looking forward to it. Another year starting in January 2025, seeing these guys up and close and personal again.
2025, my gosh. Living in fast forward, man.
Yes.
Fast forward.
I'm trying not to, but I can't help it. It's the first week of December, and so.
That'll do it for this episode of Eye of the Swarm. We want to thank head coach Greg Polkowski and Reid Johnson from the men's basketball team for stopping by. For Reid and Greg, for the Big Sound Matt Johnson, I am Jon Garver, and thank you for watching Eye of the Swarm.